How do you even begin to tell the story of something as huge as global online education? It's just massive. Well, sometimes the best way to understand the big picture is to zoom way in on one person's journey. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to follow the 2018 chronicle of Morten Flate Paulsen, a real leader in the field, and see how his personal story opens up this incredible world of digital learning. And it all kind of starts with this quote. It actually comes from this simple, almost funny moment where he took international colleagues on a sleigh ride in a very snowy Oslo. And it hit him. What was a winter wonderland to him might just be, well, really, really cold for someone from the equator. And it's that human realization, that simple shift in perspective, that's going to frame our entire story today. So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at a massive leadership challenge that landed in his lap. Then, we'll get into the power of community. After that, we'll take a moment to honor a mentor's legacy before diving into all the cool innovations that were shaping the future. And finally, we'll zoom all the way out to put this 1 year into a much, much bigger context. Okay, so let's jump in. Our story really kicks off with a year that, let's just say, did not go according to plan. 2018 threw Morten a huge curveball in the form of a brand new and pretty massive responsibility. He's at a conference in Genova, and he gets this pivotal call. The head of the ICDE, that's the International Council for Open and Distance Education, is retiring, and they need him. They want him to step in as the acting Secretary General. He called it a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but wow, what a tough decision. He already had his own company to run. In the end, he accepted, agreeing to lead this huge global organization through the end of 2019. And this wasn't just any role. The weight of this position was incredible. He was stepping in to lead an organization with some serious history. In fact, 2018 marked the 80th anniversary of ICDE's very first World Conference. That's the legacy he was now in charge of. And he didn't just maintain the status quo. Under his leadership, the organization kept growing. By the end of that year, the ICDE network had expanded to include 200 member institutions from literally every corner of the globe. But what does a network of 200 institutions actually mean? Well, it means scale, an incredible scale. Together, those institutions were serving about 15 million students. Can you imagine? Suddenly, his work wasn't just about his own courses anymore. It was about shaping education policy and quality for millions upon millions of learners all over the world. But, for all the talk about global networks and these huge numbers, the real work, the real magic, it happens on a much smaller, much more human scale. It happens through personal connection. And that year was absolutely defined by the human side of this digital world. I love this little anecdote from a conference in Manchester. So Morten shows up on crutches after a squash injury. This means he couldn't go on the traditional pub crawl with everyone else. But because of that, he ended up having this amazing, deep conversation with a colleague on a park bench instead. It's just a perfect reminder that even at these big industry events, the best moments are often the ones you never planned for. And this whole experience, it was like a perfect snapshot of a key idea from another big conference that year, the idea of micro, meso, and macro. Morten was literally living this contrast. On the one hand, at the micro level, he had his own platform, NooA, focusing on individual students. And on the other, at the macro level, he was leading ICDE, thinking about global policy for those 15 million students. So, amidst all the strategic planning and these huge new responsibilities, the year also brought a moment of really profound loss and reflection. It was a moment that underscored just how vital mentorship is in any field. In August, the community lost Ingeborg Boe. For Morten, this was a deeply personal loss. He describes her as his most trusted mentor, the person he always turned to for advice on leading these big organizations. And tragically, her battle with ALS, a progressive neurodegenerative disease, was the same disease his own father had battled, which made that connection even deeper. The official obituary he wrote for her it captures her essence so beautifully. He celebrated her for a spirit that was progressive, optimistic, and sensible, all qualities that directly shapes the organizations she led. It's such a powerful testament to how one person's character can define an institution's entire culture. And her contributions were just vast. I mean, she was a president of Europe's e-learning network, EADL. She served on the global ICDE board for over a decade, and she was even awarded the Norwegian King's Medal of Merit. Her legacy is literally woven into the fabric of online education. But even while honoring the past,
the focus of 2018 was so squarely on the future. The whole year was buzzing with these innovative new projects and wild ideas, all aimed at solving real-world challenges. Everything from using blockchain to reaching marginalized youth.
One of the really big ideas being thrown around was the blockchain university. This came from a Forbes article, and the concept was basically to use technology to decentralize higher education, automate the administration, manage tuition, and essentially create an Uber for students. It was a pretty radical and exciting look at what a university could even be.
And this innovation wasn't just talk. There were real projects making a difference. You had the eNEET project, which was all about helping rural youth who were not in education, employment, or training. There was the EPICA project, building a modern e-portfolio for students across Europe and Africa. And there was a huge summit in Paris that came up with 13 different roadmaps for the future of open education.
Then, things took a really interesting turn. He gets an invitation from the Norwegian Minister of Trade for a meeting about senior entrepreneurs. So what does he do? He turns to his own network and asks two simple but really powerful questions. First, why do seniors even start businesses? And second, how can the government actually help them succeed?
The solution he came up with, honestly, it's brilliant. It's kind of like a reverse apprenticeship. The idea is that certified companies would get financial support to host a senior entrepreneur, giving them a community, support, and a small wage. Then, that support would slowly decrease over 2 years as their business gets on its feet. It's just a fantastic idea that mixes the wisdom of experience with the energy of a startup.
All right, let's pull all these threads together now, because no year, no journey ever happens in a vacuum. To really get what this year in education meant, we have to see it against the backdrop of what else was happening in the world.
Just think about 2018 for a second. We had the Winter Olympics, the World Cup, but there was also immense tragedy. A bridge collapsed in Genova, the very same city where Morten accepted his new role. The killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, a devastating tsunami. This context just reminds us that all this progress, all this work, it happens alongside the triumphs and the turmoil of our shared world.
And that's really what it all comes down to. When you look at this journey through 2018, you see that global education isn't just about platforms or policies or a bunch of acronyms. At its heart, it is a deeply human story. It's about people connecting across borders, mentoring each other, solving tough problems, and trying to build something that's going to last. And so that leaves us with one last really crucial question to think about. As our world of learning becomes more and more digital, more and more global, how do we make sure we don't lose the stuff that actually matters? How do we build these systems so they actually foster the community, the mentorship, and the human connection that is so essential for any real learning to happen?